at that time.
His side of the story was like, how can I be mad at a whole coast? That don't even make sense. And I said, well, nobody's heard you say that. Like, this is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. When Pac passed, it wasn't social media like that. So it didn't spread like that.
Right.
I was on the air and called the hospital because I kept calling to check on him. And somebody on the phone just like told me
that Pac passed.
had passed. But people didn't really know yet. It hadn't come out or spread. And she told me on the phone and I was on the air.
She asked me on the air, how do you feel about Puffy and Biggie? And I said what I felt. They're my homeboys, I love them. When I got back to the hotel, it was a whole nother atmosphere. Like, he sent his homeboy up to get the bud from me as opposed to him coming to get it. Mutar came and got the bud. Pac on some bud.
Girl, we got a surprise for you.
What?
Play Piccolo.
L to the J. What's happening, baby?
I can say this because I'm so not a racist. White people call Tupac. I'm sorry. Tupac. I know. If it was Tupac, it would have a K. You're not the first. Hopefully after tonight, you will be the last.
Do you feel like you've done anything wrong?
I did a lot of shit wrong. Probably half the stuff I did is wrong. You know what I mean? But I believe in my heart I'm doing it for the right reason. It might turn out wrong, but only reason is I didn't have no training. I'm training myself. I'm doing this hands-on. You know what I mean? You go from up and down with the jail. I learn from my mistakes and I move on.
Hold up. Did you hear this? Angie Martinez is spilling the tea on none other than Diddy. In a shocking reveal, she's exposing how the mogul allegedly held back that exclusive Tupac interview we all wanted to hear. Why didn't we get the full scoop? Stick around because you won't believe what Angie had to say.
When Angie Martinez, right, when she went to LA and did the interview with Tupac, did y'all know about that on Bad Boy side?
Yeah, we heard about it. And I think Puff is probably one of the only persons that heard that interview. Angie can't say that nobody heard that interview.
It's a strong dude, yo. I know Duke, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
He's real strong. So when it was like he got shot, I was just more like, again? You know what I'm saying? He always getting shot or shot at. He gonna pull through this one again, make a few records about it, and it's gonna be over, you know what I'm saying?
Announcing to LA that Tupac died
Me too.
is another show
Even in New York.
that continues to come back. You remember what that show felt like?
Oh, God, yeah. I tell this story in my book. When Pac passed, it wasn't social media like that. So it didn't spread like that.
Right.
I called the hospital. I was on the air and called the hospital because I kept calling to check on him. And somebody on the phone just like told me.
What's up next for you after this project?
Forward, up, faster, bigger, taller. I got things that's in front of me, but I won't know till I step in it.
Tupac article had me pissed off, you know what I'm saying? And the rumors are spreading. It's on some shit like we set him up. But when he died, I was just like, whoa. You know what I'm saying? Kind of took me by. I mean, even though we was going through our drama, I would never wish death on nobody, you know what I'm saying? Because ain't no coming back from that.
Let's dive into some explosive tea. Angie Martinez just spilled about her unreleased interview with Tupac. And surprise, it all seems to lead back to Diddy. For years, fans wondered if this legendary interview even existed, but now Angie's revealing why it never saw the light of day. And yes, Diddy allegedly played a major role in shutting it down.
The East Coast, West Coast thing is a musical thing. That's separate. That's a whole thing separate to itself. That's a musical thing. When we have been beefing about whose music is better or which is this or which is that,
like it's gotten
from
real
the beginning.
bad
It
right
has
now.
because I'm like a lightning rod because I'm attacking New York's finest.
I have no patience for anybody that doubts me. None at all. It's too hard out here. You know what I'm saying? If my people don't stand up for me, who is? I understand these white folks looking at me like that because they don't know me. They didn't hear keep your head up. That ain't no fluke. You know, keep your head up ain't no goddamn come up. I didn't do that to be smiling in my face to say, oh, he's cool. I did that from my heart. So that if they do try to put a rape charge on me, my sisters could say he ain't about that. Now, if my sisters can't say that, you won't hear another keep your head up out my mouth. You understand me?
According to Angie, Tupac wasn't holding back during their conversation. He reportedly dropped some jaw-dropping secrets about the industry, secrets that could have exposed Diddy in ways we've never seen before. Think of it like his diss track Hit 'Em Up, but in podcast form. Angie admitted that Diddy's reaction was intense, and he didn't just ask her to back off, he threatened her. She's now opening up about how those threats pushed her to keep the interview locked away. But here's the big question. Do the authorities have a copy of that interview? And did Sean Combs really go as far as to threaten Angie's life over it? Angie shared in an interview that she didn't air the conversation back then because she genuinely feared for people's safety. She said Tupac was so fired up that broadcasting it might have escalated things. Her goal was to calm the situation, not make it worse. But she admitted she was scared someone could get hurt if it went public.
Did you feel at any point that you was like betraying New York or Biggie by going to do that interview with Tupac at that time?
His side of the story was like, how could I be mad at a whole coast? That don't even make sense. And I said, well, nobody's heard you say that. Like, this is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then I went there, and he did say some brilliant, amazing things, but he was also on fire and still very angry.
Fuck peace. I let the niggas know it's on for life. Don't let the west side ride the night.
This happened. I'm gonna do this to this person, this person, this person, this person.
Mob deep. Bad boy as a staff, record label, and as a crew.
And he definitely was using me to get a point across.
Of course, you're the voice of New York.
Yes. And I thought, if I aired this, more people will die. More people will die.
Angie Martinez is known today as the voice of New York, thanks to her legendary 28-year career at Hot 97 and later at Power 105.1 FM. But back in the 90s, Angie was just starting out as both a rapper and a radio host, trying to make her mark in the industry. When Angie got the chance to interview Tupac, it felt like her big break. At the time, Tupac was one of the most famous rappers on the planet, and the East Coast-West Coast feud was at its height. Angie's vibrant, fresh style made her the ideal person to handle the interview, but she had no idea how much it would impact her career. So why was Angie such a great pick for that iconic Tupac interview? Let's take a quick look at her journey from a rebellious teen to becoming one of the most respected voices in hip-hop and pop culture.
Do you feel like you've done anything wrong?
I did a lot of shit wrong. Probably half the stuff I did is wrong. You know what I mean? But I believe in my heart I'm doing it for the right reason. It might turn out wrong, but only reason is I didn't have no training. I'm training myself. I'm doing this hands-on. You know what I mean? You go from up and down, went to jail. I learn from my mistakes and I move on. And I challenge anybody to do what I did and to still be standing and still be doing the shit that I do. Nobody has done it. Nobody is behind me. Nobody was in front of me. You know what I mean? Not on this shit. We have had no rapper be hunted by the criminal system like I have. You know what I mean? Be shot, sent to jail. Nobody. While I was rapping, released the album, sold millions, came out, dropped another one, sold twice as much, blew up. You know, I believe that all I'm trying to do is represent who we are.
Born to a Puerto Rican father and a mother with Puerto Rican, Cuban, and Dominican roots, Angie grew up bouncing between Brooklyn and Washington Heights. Raised mostly by her single mom, Angie wasn't exactly a model teenager. She got caught up in street life, hanging out with friends, experimenting with smoking and drinking, and living on the edge. What Angie loved most, though, was music, especially hip-hop and rap. Worried about the direction her daughter's life was heading, Angie's mom sent her to Miami to stay with her aunt. Later, her mom moved to Miami as well, where she landed a job as a programming manager at a local radio station. That move would set the stage for Angie's future in radio.
She asked me on the air, how do you feel about Puffy and Biggie? And I said what I felt. They're my homeboys, I love them. When I got back to the hotel, it was a whole nother atmosphere. Like, he sent his homeboy up to get the bud from me as opposed to him coming to get it. Mutar came and got the bud. Pac on some bud. So when we got on the plane to go back to LA the next day, my nigga didn't say nothing to me the whole ride. And that's a 5-hour flight on a private plane.
Yeah.
So I walk up to him like maybe 3 hours into the flight, sit next to him like, you going to Vegas, cuz? Turned on me like this. Start talking to somebody else. I'm like, all right. So I go in the back, put the blanket on my head, knife in my hand, fork in my hand, and just sleep the rest of the ride. Because I feel like they finna try to do something. So when I get off the plane, we land, he walk out, we meet right here. I'm like, cuz, you going to Vegas? You do me like this.
Angie Martinez's early exposure to radio shaped her entire career. At just 15, she scored an internship at a local radio station, getting a front row seat to hip-hop's biggest moments. While working as an intern at Hot 97, she got the chance to rub shoulders with some of the most influential people in the culture.
The East Coast, West Coast thing is a musical thing. That's separate. That's a whole thing separate to itself. That's a musical thing. When we have been beefing about whose music is better or which is this
It just
or which
seems
is that
like it's gotten
from
real
the beginning.
bad
It
right
has
now.
because I'm like a lightning rod because I'm attacking New York's finest.
Before long, Angie caught the attention of DJ Funkmaster Flex, who took her under his wing. She quickly mastered the art of radio hosting and became a natural behind the mic. By the late 80s, Angie was co-hosting the afternoon drive segments with DJ Enough, interviewing music legends like Jay-Z, DMX, and Mariah Carey.
Tell me about Tupac. Can I explain something here tonight? I hope y'all clap because I'm about to say exactly what y'all think. White people always, be careful. I can say this because I'm so not a racist. White people call Tupac, I'm sorry, Tupac. I know. If it was Tupac, it would have a K. You're not the first. Hopefully after tonight, you will be the last.
Angie's charm and talent helped her rise to the top, even though she had her fair share of clashes with rival radio host Wendy Williams. Still, Angie built a loyal audience, cementing her place as one of the most recognized voices in hip-hop radio. In 2014, she shocked fans by leaving Hot 97 nearly 2 decades and moving to Power 105.1. Rumors swirled about tension between Angie and her Hot 97 crew, but Angie later clarified that there was no bad blood between her and her colleagues like Ebro Darden, Funkmaster Flex, or Sifa Sounds. Even after the switch, Angie kept her spot as one of the top personalities in the game. That same year, Jay-Z signed her to Roc Nation, giving her music career a serious boost. Angie had already dipped her toes into rapping back in 1997 after rapper KRS-One encouraged her to give it a shot. She featured on his track Heartbeat, which became a hit and introduced Angie as more than just a radio host.
Did you feel at any point that you was like betraying New York or Biggie by going to do that interview with Tupac at that time?
His side of the story was like, how could I be mad at a whole coast? That don't even make sense. And I said, well, nobody's heard you say that. Like, this is getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Building on that momentum, Angie landed a feature on the Ladies' Night remix of her song Not Tonight, alongside icons like Missy Elliott and Lisa Left Eye Lopez. The song was a massive success, going platinum and climbing to number 6 on the Billboard Hot 100. By this point, Angie wasn't just reporting on music royalty, she was becoming part of it. Record labels were eager to sign Angie Martinez, and during all the buzz, she teamed up with her friend, Mary J. Blige. In 2001, Angie dropped her debut album, Up Close and Personal, which was a hit both critically and commercially. By the next year, she was already working on her second album, Animal House. Animal House turned out to be an even bigger success. It became a summer favorite and solidified Angie's status as both a music star and a prominent voice on urban radio. Her career seemed unstoppable, with one milestone after another. But in 2019, Angie's life took a scary turn when she was involved in a serious accident that nearly cost her everything. That traumatic experience made her rethink her priorities. After a long recovery, she decided to shift gears, eventually launching her podcast, IRL, which gave her career a fresh direction. Of course, Angie's journey wasn't all smooth sailing. One of the most talked about challenges she faced was her decades-long feud with Diddy. The two just didn't get along. In her memoir, My Voice, Angie admitted she couldn't stand him.
I couldn't air it on the radio because I was literally afraid that somebody would die. I literally thought I would make a bad situation worse, when my intent was to try to smooth it out and make it better. But he was so angry and passionate at the time that I really felt like if I would have came, put it on the radio, it would have got worse.
The tension, however, wasn't personal. It was all about business. Angie felt Diddy's way of operating was shady, and she didn't agree with how he handled things. While others were eager to build connections with him, Angie stayed distant, knowing their personalities didn't mesh.
When Pac passed, it wasn't social media like that. So it didn't spread like that. I was on the air and called the hospital because I kept calling to check on him. And somebody on the phone just like told me
that Pac passed.
Had passed, but people didn't really know yet. It hadn't come out or spread. And she told me on the phone and I was on the air. So that's how I found out.
Was that call live? Or you had
It wasn't live, but then I wound up telling the city, and I cried, and I never cried on the radio. You know, people to this day will tell me, I remember that day.
They remember that?
Because it happened in the moment.
And I remember the same. We came in and they were like, man, we're hearing certain things. I remember we huddled in an office and we were talking in the office and we started making calls. And then we got like a legitimate person on the phone that was, and when that person was like, yeah, man, you know, we lost them, so on and so forth. Of course, it's not social media. It wasn't this wildfire that spread. And I remember Angie literally walking from that office back to the booth and thinking, I gotta tell people that Pac is gone.
Angie Martinez always felt that Diddy's aggressive approach to pushing his own agenda didn't vibe with her personality, but the tension between them ran deeper than just a clash of styles. Angie once revealed that there was a specific moment when Diddy confronted her, leaving her shaken. While it wasn't entirely unexpected, the encounter was so uncomfortable that it stuck with her. Over time, their run-ins only reinforced Angie's negative impression of him. Still, she made the choice to keep their issues private, believing not everything needed to be put on blast. While parts of Angie's career were filled with drama, there were also defining moments, like her unforgettable interview with Tupac. At the time, Angie was still on the rise in the radio world, and landing that interview was a huge deal for her.
Announcing to LA that Tupac died
Me too.
is another show
Even in New York.
that continues to come back. You remember what that show felt like?
Oh, God, yeah. I tell this story in my book. When Pac passed, you know, it wasn't social media like that.
Right,
so it didn't
right,
spread like that.
right.
I called the hospital. I was on the air and called the hospital because I kept calling to check on him. And somebody on the phone just like told me.
That Pac passed.
Had passed, but people didn't really know yet. It hadn't come
Yeah.
out, spread. And she told me on the phone and I was on the air. And so that's how I
Was
found
that call
out.
live? Or you had
It wasn't live, but then I wound up telling the city, and I cried, and I never cried on the radio. You know, we don't cry on the radio.
Right.
You know, people to this day will tell me, I remember that day.
They remember that?
Because it happened in the moment.
But here's the twist. The full interview never came out. Angie only released about 10 minutes of what was reportedly a 2-hour conversation. So what really happened to the rest of it? Angie said her goal was to give Tupac a chance to share his perspective. During the interview, Tupac spoke passionately about the East Coast-West Coast feud. He described it as something separate from the music itself, explaining that the beef was amplified because he was directly going after New York's top rapper. According to Tupac, New York stood by its king of New York when it suited them, but distanced itself when it didn't. His raw honesty was one of the reasons Angie's interview became so legendary, even though most of it has never been heard.
What's up next for you after this project?
Forward, up, faster, bigger, taller. Got things that's in front of me, but I won't know till I step in it.
The interview with Tupac came at the peak of the East Coast-West Coast rivalry, making it one of the most anticipated moments in hip-hop. Everyone knew Tupac had a lot to say, and he didn't hold back. Angie revealed that Tupac exposed some serious secrets about the music industry during their conversation, including dark truths that people were willing to protect no matter the cost. She felt that releasing the full interview could have deadly consequences, especially given the violent nature of the East Coast-West Coast beef. That feud was responsible for countless shootouts and, ultimately, the passing of Tupac and Biggie Smalls.
Tupac is a strong dude, yo. I know Duke, you know what I'm saying? He's real strong. So when it was like he got shot, I was just more like, again? You know what I'm saying? He always getting shot or shot at. He gonna pull through this one again, make a few records about it, and it's gonna be over, you know what I'm saying? But when he died, I was just like, whoa. You know what I'm saying? Kind of took me by. I mean, even though we was going through our drama, I would never wish death on nobody, you know what I'm saying? Because ain't no coming back from that.
Fat Joe, who was present during the interview, recalled Angie explaining why she never released it. He said that Angie told him she was afraid it could get people assassinated. Joe agreed, explaining that Angie made the right call by keeping the interview private. He said that if it had been released, the fallout could have been huge, especially given how the media fueled the East Coast-West Coast drama. He pointed out that people had already lost their lives because of the way the media pushed the narrative, even though the rivalry wasn't as intense as it seemed.
Fat Joe, he did an interview with Angie Martinez, and Angie Martinez told Fat Joe that the reason why she haven't released the Tupac interview is because she felt like the interview would get people. What you think about her saying that?
Yeah, I was there when he did the interview with Angie Martinez, and I seen that post, and I think she made a wise decision. You know what I mean? Because everybody will be involved, and when bodies start dropping and people lose their life, you know what I mean? The consequences and accountability, everybody who pushed that, is involved. Like, for example, people die because the media really pushed the East Coast, West Coast war that really wasn't there. So I think Angie Martinez was wise to say, I'm not gonna release that, because she probably would have got a lot of money. It probably would have been one of her biggest interviews, especially back then. Pac was fresh out of jail, and one of the first interviews he done was with her. It would have blew up. But she was smart enough and wise enough to say, you know what, but what about the consequences? You understand? And I think, hip hop need more of that. They need more of that mindset to say, okay, even with the record companies, the record companies don't really care about what these rappers put out and, if they start killing each other, because it's all about money. So I seen that we was there, and I think that was really wise of her, to not release it.
Joe added that Angie probably could have made a lot of money off the interview, and it would have been massive, especially since Tupac had just gotten out of jail, and it was one of his first big interviews. But he respected her decision to think about the consequences and not risk further bloodshed.
And what's going down with that. So I wanted to get his view, and here goes a little something.
The East Coast, West Coast thing is a musical thing. That's separate. That's a whole thing separate to itself. That's a musical thing. When we have been beefing about whose music is better or which is this or which is that,
like it's gotten
from
real
the beginning.
bad
It
right
has
now.
because I'm like a lightning rod because I'm attacking New York's finest. They're self-proclaimed king of New York. You know what I mean? I'm attacking them, so because nobody's separating themselves from him, they
talking about
how
Biggie.
raw. Yes, they still talking about how raw he is and woo woo woo. He's a representative. He represents New York.
There are a lot
every time it benefits New York, he represents New York. When it don't benefit New York, now he's just another rapper. But y'all let him wear y'all colors. You let him shout y'all shit out. When Biggie came out here, he screamed out, "Brooklyn's in the house." We don't beat to say why you starting a war. Why is everybody, when I say West Side, it hurt people's feelings?
I don't think it's because you're saying West Side. I think because
They think they own me.
No, not at all. I think it's because, Dog Pound video came out, New York, and I'm not saying you was in the video. I know you wasn't in the video, but
The Tupac interview story goes beyond just a rivalry between artists. It was the press that really took things to the next level. The media played a huge role in making the East Coast-West Coast feud seem even worse than it actually was, pushing sensationalized stories that only fueled the fire. Angie explained that releasing the interview at the time would have been like adding fuel to an already raging fire. She knew it could lead to unnecessary violence, so she made the tough decision not to air it.
I didn't write it. I didn't produce the beat.
All right, so let's
I was
take
in
that.
jail. The album was done while I was in jail. That's separate.
it just, you know what it is? It's New York's visualizing your camp, which to them is death row, which is Dog Pound, which is Snoop, and which is that whole thing. And it was all one time. The New York video came out. Brothers was stepping on cars in New York, stepping on New York like they owned it. Boom, you come out, next video, West Coast.
What about the video? Yes, to me it is the best coast. And everybody in New York feel like that too. That's why they come out here and party, man. Why is everybody acting like for me to say Cali is the West Coast, I never said New York ain't shit. I never said New York is the worst coast. I just said where I'm at, where I'm from is the best coast. Why is that offending people?
Okay.
Angie recalled that when she sat down with Tupac for the interview, she was just 22, and it was her first big break. She flew to the West Coast alone, not knowing Tupac personally, and what she got from him was beyond anything she expected.
That's where I interviewed him. That's where it happened. It was in the middle of it was smack in the middle of what was going on, crazy. And I was 22 and maybe, if that. It was my first big interview, and I flew to the West Coast by myself.
Wow.
Didn't know him from nowhere. And I really just went there and interviewed him, and what I got was so crazy.
But there's more to the story. Allegedly, Diddy caught wind of the interview's contents, and that's when things took a darker turn. Word is Diddy sent people to pressure Angie into keeping the interview under wraps for her own safety. It's still unclear how Diddy found out what Tupac had said, but it's possible someone on Angie's team leaked the info to him.
I know that Biggie and Puffy are here tonight. Did you see them? Do you have anything to say to them at all?
Nah, but even if we saw them, we are businessmen. We are not animals. It's not like we're gonna see them and rush them and jump on them. If they see us and they want drama, we're gonna definitely bring it like only Dev Row could bring it. But we here as businessmen to enjoy and support the Video Music Awards for MTV because they support us. So if they want to come and use this business opportunity to get on some gangster, we do that better than anybody.
Some rumors suggest that Tupac had spilled details about Diddy that could have ruined his career. One source pointed out that if Angie believed the interview was so explosive that it could cost someone their life, imagine how much damage it could have done to Diddy's reputation. When asked about it, a person close to Diddy confirmed they'd heard about the interview and hinted that Diddy might be one of the only people who actually listened to it. They even implied that it wasn't Angie's decision to keep the interview private. It wasn't her idea not to release it. The question of who actually owns the Tupac interview is still up for debate. According to some sources, it's not Angie's property. Hot 97 owns it. While Angie can take credit for holding on to the interview, since it was done under Hot 97's banner, the station has the rights to it. And with Diddy's connections at Hot 97, he could have easily made a few calls to prevent the interview from being released. He had that kind of power. Everyone knows Tupac and Diddy were on opposite sides of the East Coast-West Coast feud. Tupac even suspected Diddy had a hand in the shooting that almost took his life. So it's no surprise that Pac didn't hold back when calling out Diddy during the interview.
Did you feel at any point that you was like betraying New York or Biggie by going to do that interview with Tupac at that time?
His side of the story was like, how could I be mad at a whole coast? That don't even make sense. And I said, well, nobody's heard you say that. Like, this is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then I went there, and he did say some brilliant, amazing things, but he was also on fire and still very angry. This happened, I'm gonna do this to this person, this person, this person, this person. And he definitely was using me to get a point across.
Of course, you're the voice of New York.
Yes. And I thought, if I aired this, more people will die. More people will.
There are rumors now that Angie might not be able to release the interview, even if she wanted to. Some believe the federal investigators may have gotten their hands on it. With Diddy facing legal issues, including RICO charges, there's talk that the feds have reopened the investigation into Tupac's demise. The interview is said to contain key details about the events that led up to Pac's murder, making it potentially crucial evidence in the case. The big question now is, did Diddy actually have a hand in Tupac's passing? Some newly leaked court documents from Keefe D's trial have brought Diddy's name up 77 times, sparking fresh rumors about his possible involvement.
Who shot Tupac?
I already know who shot me. I believe in karma. I believe in all of that.
We are here today to announce the arrest of Keefe D for the murder of Tupac Shakur.
Deserve to die. Talking about you getting money, but it's funny to me. All you been bummy while you me.
Even after nearly 30 years, the investigation into Tupac's murder is still digging up new leads. Just last year, Dwayne Keefe D. Davis, a member of the Crips, was charged for his role in the 1996 shooting. During this ongoing trial, Diddy's name has come up again, adding fuel to the long-standing rumors that he may have ordered Tupac's hit. Diddy, of course, has always denied any involvement. Beyond these murder accusations, Diddy's facing other investigations, including several SA charges, with one particularly disturbing video from last year showing him chasing his ex-partner, Cassie Ventura, through a hotel and her back to his room. Rumors about Diddy's involvement in Tupac's murder have been circling for years, and even Eminem recently addressed them in his song Fuel from his album The Death of Slim Shady. In the track, he raps, "Wait, he didn't just spell the word rapper and leave out a P, did he? R.I.P. Rest in peace, Biggie. And Pac, both of y'all should be living. But I ain't trying to beef with him, cause he might put a hit on me like Keefe D. Get him." So where do all these rumors about Diddy come from? Let's break it down and see how his name ended up back in the mix.
Tupac article had me pissed off, you know what I'm saying? And the rumors that's spreading is on some tip like we set him up, you know what I'm saying? And that's crazy. It's just ridiculous, you know what I'm saying? But then I also understand that if you was to get shot 5 times, the mind is just completely spinning, you know what I'm saying? You're real confused about your situation. So it'll cause you to say things that you really don't mean.
Tupac's demise happened on September 7, 1996, when he was shot in a drive-by in Las Vegas. It's said that his last words were a defiant to a police officer who asked him who shot him. What makes this even more intense is that the shooting came just hours after a fight broke out at the MGM Grand Hotel between Tupac's crew and Orlando Anderson, a member of the rival Crips gang. This fight was believed to be in response to Anderson trying to rob one of Tupac's associates earlier that week. Security footage even showed Tupac getting involved in the altercation.
When Angie Martinez, right, when she went to LA and did the interview with Tupac, did y'all know about that on Bad Boy side?
Yeah, we heard about it. And I think Puff is probably one of the only persons that heard that interview. Angie can't say that nobody heard that interview, because it wasn't her ideal not to put it out. Do you understand what I'm saying? She can say that it wasn't her idea, but it's not owned by her. Who owns that interview? Because who was sent out there? Hot 97 owns it. Do you understand what I'm saying? So she could take all the accolades for not putting it out. You understand? But when you send somebody or someone of your person do an interview under the banner of Hot 97, it belongs to Hot 97. And Puff in the back ran Hot 97. That's how he got Wendy Williams fired. You understand what I'm saying? He can make phone calls to say something, to say, don't put this out, don't do this, take this off. He had that kind of power.
So Puffy, he did hear that Tupac interview.
Why would you try to stop something if you ain't heard it? Why would you try to stop something if you didn't hear it? And if Puff asked to hear something that Angie Martinez have, you think they gonna deny him?
Tupac's assassination made major headlines right away, and it's still one of the most talked about events in hip-hop. Many people thought his demise had something to do with his ongoing feud with East Coast rapper Biggie Smalls. Others pointed the finger at Suge Knight, the head of Death Row Records, who was in the car with Tupac when it happened. There were even whispers about a white Cadillac seen speeding away from the scene, fueling more theories. Who is Keffe D? Here's where things take a surprising twist. After 27 years of theories and speculation, the LAPD charged Keffe D, a member of the Crips gang and the uncle of Orlando Anderson, with the assassination of Tupac Shakur. The charges come after two major confessions from Keffe D. The first was during a 2008 police interview where he thought he was getting immunity for talking. The second came in 2018 during a TV series called Death Row Chronicles, where Keffe D, now battling cancer, said he had nothing left to lose. Keffe D's version of events is eye-opening. He claims that his nephew, Orlando Anderson, who was assassinated in a separate gang-related incident in 1999, was the one who shot Tupac. According to him, the shooting was partly a revenge move for the beating Anderson took from Tupac's crew, and partly because Diddy allegedly offered a $1 million bounty on Tupac. Keffe D says Diddy was furious over Tupac's diss track Hit 'Em Up, aimed at Biggie and Bad Boy Records. What does Diddy have to do with this? Diddy's name has always been tied to the mystery of Tupac's murder, but now it's being discussed in court for the first time. Court documents leaked from Keffe D's trial show Diddy's name mentioned 77 times, raising eyebrows. However, not everyone is buying into the theory. While Keffe D might have been involved in the shooting and Diddy could have had a bounty on Tupac, there's still no solid proof that Diddy directly ordered the hit. Some believe Keffe D's actions were more about revenge for his nephew's beating than any bounty, and the bounty could just be a coincidence. After Diddy's recent arrest over serious SA charges, Tupac's estate has brought in top attorney Alex Spiro. Spiro, known for his work with Megan Thee Stallion in her case against Tory Lanez, and for getting charges dropped for Alec Baldwin after a shooting incident on set, is now investigating any possible links between Diddy and Tupac's demise. So what do you think? Should Angie release the Tupac interview, or is it better to leave it to the authorities to handle? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. That's all for today. We hope you enjoyed that video, and if you did, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more videos like this.